hope you're having a great night. I know I am after the Braves took the win over Miami 8-1. What a night it is. But we're going to go ahead and recap the game. We're going to talk about everything going on and the most important thing from tonight's game. Of course, it's been no secret that the Braves starting pitching has been the biggest concern up until this point, and we're only a couple of weeks in, and the fact that we're already having cracks in the foundation isn't exactly something that's going to make you feel confident going into the deep part of the season. That said, I thought tonight seeing Max Fried pitch the way he pitched and looking like Max Fried was a nice sign. I'm not saying that that's how it's going to be going forward. I don't know. But what we can say is tonight he looked great. 6 1/3 pitched, 4 hits, 1 earned run, 1 walk, picking up 4 strikeouts across the night. You cannot complain about that. But I will say this. His first appearance against the Phillies this year did not go well at all. I think we all can agree there. He didn't have his stuff. He knew he didn't have his stuff. He did not look comfortable. And you could say the same about the first inning against the Diamondbacks in his last start. They got out to that 6-run lead in the first inning. Fried just could not stop the bleeding. But to his credit, in that game, he did settle down. He was able to get 3 scoreless innings following that treacherous first inning, and somehow the Braves still came back and won 9-8. You have the offense to thank for that. He would go from giving up 6 runs in the first inning to giving you 4 1/3 innings pitched in that appearance. So to me, I saw a turn in the last game that gave me enough confidence to say, okay, well, he's at least adjusting and finding what works. So I saw this kind of coming. I will say that, playing against the Marlins wasn't something that, is going to instill confidence just naturally. Like, it's not a team that you go, oh, yeah, Fried's back. You need to see him against some deeper competition, all due respect to the Marlins. But, again, this kind of goes all into the starting pitching problems that the Braves have right now. We all know what's going on with Spencer Strider, and I could talk to you about it till I'm blue in the face, but the facts are what the facts are. He's out with an elbow injury. The Braves have yet to tell us what the official word is 4 to 5 days after his visit with Dr. Meister, which is never good news. He's likely out for the season, and we're just, for the purposes of this stream, we're going to assume that he is out for the season and maybe even some next year. That is not where the Braves were hoping to be 3 weeks into the season. That is not where the Braves wanted to be 3 weeks into the season, but it's where the Braves find themselves. And I will say that Max Fried's start tonight does give me some confidence with this rotation, but Spencer Strider's absence does draw up a lot of concerns because you look at the rotation and the way it's built, right? Strider was your guy. There's a reason he was named opening day starter. They don't just give that title out, especially when Max Fried is in that rotation. Fried being your number 2 guy by default. Chris Sale you picked up in the offseason, who you were kind of hoping to test the waters with a little bit this year. You weren't hoping to have to use him the way the Braves are likely going to have to use him going forward. You could say the same for Charlie Morton, who I think we all know is on the back end of his career. He still looks great, and he's been great so far this season. But again, you were hoping Strider could carry the load this year, and that is now up for question. And of course, the 5th spot, a guy who has honestly been kind of the shining light in the starting rotation so far, and Ronaldo Lopez, who nobody expected to have this kind of early success, or at least few people had that expectation. I know I certainly had my questions about it, but he's proven all of those wrong as of, so far in the season. And the way I look at it is, it's one start that leads into another start and leads into another start. Don't question it until it breaks, because right now we need that. And he's been phenomenal so far this season, and that's really all you can ask for, is him to go out there and give you 5 to 6 innings and save the bullpen, which, by the way, throughout all of the struggles that the Braves have had so far this season, the one shining light, pitching-wise anyway, has been the bullpen. They have been great, especially in games where the starting pitcher has struggled. They have been really great, and I think the less they have to pitch, the better. The less they have to show what they have, the better. I mean, of course, we saw Luis Guillorme last night against the Mets, and that's never a good start. But with all of the questions that you have right now with the starting rotation for the Atlanta Braves, there's been this contingency among Braves fans and Twitter users and you guys commenting on the videos of, hey, Tyler, should we just go get Trevor Bauer? And that's a name that I don't talk about very often. It's a name that is kind of blacklisted across Major League Baseball, but it's a name that, we have to talk about right now because all things considered, if there was ever a time and there was ever a place to do it, right now in Atlanta may be that place. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not saying the Braves are going to do it. And you may be sitting at home going, Tyler, why would the Braves not do it? You could get a Cy Young Award winner on league minimum. Why wouldn't you do that? And I can't give you all the answers. I don't know. But what I do know is it's not just the Braves that aren't doing it. It's 29 other teams who probably have a lot of reasons to go sign someone like Trevor Bauer as well. You look at, the Oakland A's who could just use reasons to fill the seats. Trevor Bauer would certainly do that. And there's a lot of teams like that. The Tampa Bay Rays, who historically don't spend a lot of money on big free agents. They could use a boost, right? Anybody like that, any competitor, excluding maybe the Dodgers, would be dumb to not go get someone who's willing to take league minimum deal. And, of course, is a former Cy Young Award winner and still age-wise in his prime. I don't know what he would do against major league hitters on a day-to-day basis, but he is still, young and could still put up numbers. There's no question about that. But, and there's a big one, you have to look at all the reasons as to why not to do it. And I've talked about this before because the question's been asked before. Why wouldn't we go get Trevor Bauer? And I've been there when Brian Snitker, flat out said no. We're going to play that video in just a second. But all I can say is this, the PR backlash that you would get, the potential clubhouse backlash you could get, and whether right or wrong, I know Trevor Bauer is a very polarizing figure in baseball right now. Whether it's right or wrong, whether he should be allowed in baseball or not, he's got the hand he's dealt at the moment. And the only person I can really compare it to is not even in the sport of baseball. It's someone like Colin Kaepernick, who, again, whether right or wrong, whether you agree with it, disagree with him, he's been treated very similar. There's nothing stopping a team from signing Colin Kaepernick. There's nothing, never was. There's nothing stopping a team from signing Trevor Bauer at this point. But no one does. And you have to ask yourself why that is. And a large part of it is the backlash, is the PR perspective, is how will fans react to this, whether it be Braves fans, whether it be baseball fans. How will they react to it? Should the Braves care? Again, it's up for you to decide. But again, I think if there was ever a time for Trevor Bauer to become an Atlanta Brave, this would be it. I'm not saying it's going to happen. In fact, I'll be honest with you, I don't think it's going to happen. I would be surprised if it happened. I wouldn't be against it. I wouldn't, be opposed to it at all, especially considering where the Braves are right now in their rotation. And I think it could be a great story for Trevor Bauer to make a comeback, especially on a team like the Braves who have every possibility of being a World Series contender. That all said, the reason that I am skeptical that it will happen is a pretty good one. It was only a few years ago, and granted, this was back when Trevor Bauer had really just gotten in trouble, and if you don't know what he got in trouble for, I'll let you look that up, but he had just gotten in trouble. This was amidst all of that. I went to a Q&A that Brian Snitker was there, and a fan, to his credit, I don't remember his name, but to his credit, flat out asked Brian Snitker, will you ever sign Trevor Bauer? Here's what he had to say.
Yeah, Mr. Snitker, do you think the Braves would ever look at a pitcher like Trevor Bauer?
No.
Now again, right or wrong, that's where he stood at the time. I can't comment as to where he stands right now. I don't know where he stands right now. I don't know that I would ask him where he stands on it right now. I would say that the Braves, historically speaking, don't want to get wrapped up in something like that. And when you talk about Trevor Bauer, the thing that always comes up is you don't want to get on Manfred's bad side, right? You don't want to ruffle the feathers of the commissioner. And it may be an unspoken thing like, look, across Major League Baseball, do not sign Trevor Bauer, right? It may just be that. I don't know. Because to me, there's no other reason why a team wouldn't sign him who either doesn't care about the public backlash or just needs the financial boost of having someone like a Trevor Bauer. And before you go on, before you say, well, Tyler, that wouldn't be that big of a financial boost. Okay, well, think about how much of a financial boost Shohei Ohtani is, right? Even if Trevor Bauer is 10% of that, which I think at least temporarily he would be to draw fans in, you don't think Trevor Bauer's first game back on a big league mound would be highly attended? I do. And maybe for the right reasons, maybe for the wrong reasons. I don't know. But again, I think if there was ever a time, it would be now. Do I think the Braves will do it? I doubt it. I highly doubt it. But again, they find themselves in a situation where if they did it, I wouldn't blame them. Now, that all said, the Braves do have a lot of pitching options. So they could very well ride this out until the trade deadline. They could ride this out to, the whole season. I don't know what they're going to do. It really depends to me on how Chris Sale does, how Charlie Morton holds up, and how Ronaldo Lopez does as well. But beyond that, hey, Darius Vines just got the call up. We saw how Winans did. He was not the answer, at least as of right now. Darius Vines got the call up. Darius Vines has good stuff. He's able to go long in games. He's able to control the game, which I like. That all said, it really depends on what he, Bryce Elder, A.J. Smith-Shawver, Dylan Dodd, Alan Winans, how they do. Or maybe how one of them does. I don't know. But again, if all else fails, there is Trevor Bauer. And again, I'm not saying that that's the right answer. But again, I'm not saying it's the wrong one either. So we'll see how it plays out. I'm very interested by that topic. I wanted to talk to you guys about it because nobody is talking about it as far as I can see. I've looked. And that's my thoughts on it. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the whole Trevor Bauer thing. I'd love to hear your thoughts on whether or not you'd want to see him in an Atlanta Brave uniform. I know there's a large contingency of you guys that do want to see him in a Braves uniform. But again, time will tell. And I don't know that we're ever going to see Trevor Bauer in a big league uniform again. And again, whether that's right, whether that's wrong, it's the situation we find ourselves in with Trevor Bauer. In my opinion, and this is purely from a fan's perspective, Trevor Bauer is good for the game of baseball. Before all the allegations. I can't speak to those. I wasn't there. I don't know. But he was good for the game of baseball prior to that. He did YouTube content that gave you behind-the-scenes looks of everything big league baseball. He brought a fan base deeper with baseball, a fan base that we're truly lacking right now. I saw a tweet earlier today, and it's been making the rounds. I'm going to pull it up here in just a minute. But it was very telling, and it speaks to what baseball fans, including myself, think about where the game is right now. And someone asked me the other day, in fact, I'll give him credit, Thrift Behringer asked me the other day on a broadcast, on a radio broadcast, Tyler, what, women's basketball has taken a big uptick right now in the ratings. What does baseball need to do to get back to that relevancy? And my answer was pretty simple. It was, look, baseball has all of the resources to get back to wherever it was, whether you look at the 90s, whether you look at the 80s, early 2000s. Football's definitely taken the place of being number one. No doubt about that. You could argue basketball may be number two at this point. I would argue probably. But baseball has just as much resources as either of those two. They have superstars that are electric. You look at Ronald Acuna Jr., you look at Vladdy Jr., you look at Jackson Holliday and all the attention he's gotten, Mike Trout, Shohei Ohtani, even through the allegations. All of that stuff. The baseball has superstars. What it lacks is accessibility. So with that, take that in mind. This tweet was great earlier. NBC just dropped MLB. ESPN's dropping MLB coverage after 2024. 3 teams, regional cable providers, have gone bankrupt and broadcast moved to free streaming, which I think we should get to that point sooner rather than later. Bally's and Diamond, 12 more teams are on the verge of bankruptcy. Rob Manfred is killing baseball. That's the tweet, not me. Whether it's Rob Manfred or not, baseball's definitely got problems. And I think the more accessible it is, the better the product. Because to me, I would prefer, and you can tell me what you think about this, I would honestly prefer the postseason to be paid for and the regular season to be completely free. You have to get eyes on the product, right? It is so easy to watch any game, whether it be Saturday or Sunday in football. It is so easy to watch hockey. It is so easy to watch basketball. Why is baseball so hard? And I even said this on that radio call the other day. The number one question I get on this channel, the most common question I get, is nothing to do with the play on the field. The most common question I get is simply, Tyler, how can I watch the Braves without spending a fortune? And that's a shame. You know, make it accessible. And I know there's TV contracts. I know there's issues, but the fans have got to be able to watch it. You have to build a fan base, right? I look at fan bases like Tampa, which has a world of problems as to why they don't have a good fan base and why they don't use the upper deck. I look at teams like, I'm not going to use Oakland. That's a poor example of bad leadership. But I look at teams that can't fill their ballpark on a regular basis. And to me, it's not a bad fan base. It's a bad marketing strategy because there are plenty of great stars in the game. There are plenty of electric players. There are plenty of reasons to watch, right? Acuna's chase for 40-70 was a great one last year, right? The Braves in 2021 was a great one. It's not always about the big markets. It's not about LA. It's not about New York. It's not about they're either successful or they're not, so MLB is either successful or they're not. If the Milwaukee Brewers somehow made it to the World Series, you don't think the country would be watching? That's a great story, right? Because it is I want to say middle market team, but you could argue it's a low market team. And the fact is, when teams like that make it, Tampa Bay Rays is another one. When teams like that make it, there's an interest, right? It's a David and Goliath, right? Let's say the Tampa Bay Rays are playing the New York Yankees in the ALCS this year, right? That's a great David and Goliath. You're telling me that won't get views if you market it the right way and you do it the right way? I would disagree with you. So to me, with all of what we've talked about, and I know I've kind of gone on a tangent, so thank you for staying here with me. With all of what we're talking about, my point is make the game accessible. And I think ultimately we're on a path to doing that. Sooner the better. Because to me, if you live in Marietta, you should be able to watch the Braves on basic cable. Or at least streaming, free streaming. I just don't think it should cost you an arm and a leg to be able to watch your favorite team day in, day out and get invested, right? Because that's how you build lifelong fans, right? You don't build lifelong fans by getting them into the ballpark 3 nights a week because most people can't afford it. And most people can't afford, to pay for these subscriptions, right? You can pay for it. To me, this is how I think Major League Baseball should handle it. And this is my last point on this topic. To me, if I were commissioner, I would do everything in my power to where you pay, let's just call it $30 at the beginning of the season. You get every game of every team, no blackouts, no questions asked, all year long, plus the World Series, plus the ALCS, NLCS, Wild Card Series, whatever. You get all of it. 30, whatever the price is, $50. You get every last bit of it because the more you watch, the more you're going to be willing to go to the parks, the more you're going to be willing to buy merchandise, the more you're going to be willing to be invested in these teams, to be invested in these players. That's how I think it should operate. Now, is baseball going to listen to me? I doubt it. But if I ever become commissioner, that would be my pitch. So it is what it is. But, we will see. And that's how we are at the moment. So thank you for listening to my rant. Again, great win by the Braves, 8-1 over the Miami Marlins. You cannot be mad at that. Really do love love a win like that, especially after an early series loss to the Mets, which of course put a bad taste in my mouth. I'm sure it put one in yours. But again, we are where we are, and the Braves are currently still leading the division, if I'm not mistaken. So I think ultimately the Braves are in a good place, considering that they have lost a lot of their starting pitching in Spencer Strider. They have been a little bit unsure as to where they are. But right now in the NL East, the Braves are 2 games ahead of the Phillies. But again, with a loss of Strider, they're going to have their work cut out for them for the remainder of the year. I want to point out a couple of things on the offense because I know I talked a lot about the pitching. And then we're going to get into the comments. Marcell Ozuna has been absolutely on fire. He was 3 for 4 tonight. One of those hits was a home run that tied him for Major League Baseball's lead with 6. And I believe he's tied with, of all people, Mike Trout and one other guy who I cannot remember the name of. I looked it up earlier, but I'll try to find it. That said, he's leading Major League Baseball in homers. And if you had told me that last year, I would have believed you. If you had told me that the year before, I wouldn't have believed you. He's been absolutely phenomenal. Another guy that's been phenomenal, he was great tonight, 3 for 5 tonight, Orlando Arcia, who's actually leading the team in batting average with 383. And by the way, he's only making like $3 million this year, I think. So ultimately speaking, it's not always the superstars. Although Acuna and Albies were 2 for 4, Riley was 1 for 5. That 1 out of the 5 was a big RBI double. Olsen 1 for 4. But look, I mean, all throughout this lineup, you know they can hurt you, and they sure did tonight, putting up 8 runs on the Marlins. You got to love that. So, with that all out of the way, I want to thank you guys again for checking out the channel. Really do appreciate it. Remember, we are on Apple Podcasts. We are on Spotify, both of those as of now. The first, I think last week's live stream was the first to make it. So, I know a lot of you guys have asked me over the years, hey, Tyler, can you get on podcasts? We've done it. We've done the work. We've done the footwork. All you got to do is go listen to it, so please do. Of course, you can check me out on social media down below. You just saw it. At Tyler Edmond TV, that's on Twitter and Instagram. Of course, I'll tweet stuff that is pertinent to you. And, of course, on Instagram, you can just follow what I do. I actually just got back from Augusta National. I was at the Masters for work a couple of days ago, posted some pretty good pictures. Took a very high-quality camera out there, borrowed from a friend. But, yeah, we got some good stuff there. Always great to go to Augusta National. I tell people, if you ever get the chance, you know, I'm lucky I get to go every year. As of right now, with the job I'm in, I absolutely love it. You know, the food's great. It's affordable. As much as I've talked about, you know, Major League Baseball should make it more affordable to watch their product. The Masters is just, you wouldn't believe the prices. I think you can buy everything on the menu for like $40, I read somewhere. And I'll tell you, everything on that menu is great. I loaded up on chicken salad sandwiches. I've ate good this past week, but no, it was a lot of fun. I'm, you know, if out of all the guys who are in there, it'd be great if Tiger Woods somehow managed to. I know he's made the cut, 24th straight cut that dude's made. He's been pretty good over the years. If he could somehow win one more, that would be great. But Scotty Scheffler would be my pick to win. Love that, and I would love to go back to the Masters. I actually, of all people, I ran into Andrew Jones on the course, which sounds like a lie. It's not. I was standing there, and I see him. He was in a Braves hat, and I walk over. He's always been great. Walked up, said, AJ, you know, and we talked for a minute, and, you know, you just never know who you're going to run into. Of course, I didn't have my phone. I didn't have a camera on me. I would have gotten a picture with him, but, you know, still great to see AJ. By the way, that dude belongs in the Hall of Fame, which is a video for another day. I've gone on that rant too many times to go on it now. But you're talking about, you know, at least top 5 center fielders all time. That dude belongs in the Hall of Fame. Remember, please do like the video if you have not already. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already as well. And, of course, hit the bell for notifications so that you know when we go live and when we are on. When we drop new content, we do it all the time. So please do like the video. And lastly, if you would, Super Chats. They get you priority in the comments section. And they also support the channel a lot, so we would really appreciate that. That all out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the comments section. Really do appreciate all you guys tuning in. Scooter Puff 88 says, "Good evening, Tyler. I'm just going to go ahead and file yesterday, of course, the loss to the Mets, where Luis Guillorme finished the game off. That's baseball, and move on to feeling good about the fish fry we've got scheduled for this weekend." I feel pretty good about this series. I think that our pitching is in a little bit better of a place than it was yesterday. It just is what it is yesterday. It always puts a bad taste in your mouth to lose to the Mets, but the Braves do bounce back with a win over the Marlins. You're not going to win every series. It would have been nice to beat the Mets, especially as pitiful as they've been this year. They are 6-7 as of right now. The Marlins 2-12. We are one of those 12 losses. So the NL East, I've said year after year that the NL East is, for my money, the best division in baseball. And I still think to some degree that's true with the Braves and the Phillies, but beyond that, where the Mets are looking to be this year is not great, which takes out a large contingency of the competitiveness in the NL East, and they can still be very good. The Nationals, though, are a waste, and the Marlins, so far this year, are a waste as well. So the way I look at it right now, between the NL East, the only real competitive nature you're going to have is the Braves and the Phillies. And, of course, the Braves do have a 2-game lead over Philadelphia. But, I think this year the division's going to take a back seat. And you could argue that that's in large part due to the success of the Braves, to the success of the Phillies, as much as I don't enjoy saying that. But the Phillies have made it, to the World Series back-to-back years. And the Braves win the division every year. So if I'm the Marlins and I have no chance of competing, I'm trading away guys by the at the deadline. If I'm the Nationals, same thing, right? They're rebuilding. That's kind of the way this works. It's a baseball version of the circle of life. But ultimately, I think the NL East is not going to be as competitive as some of the other divisions. I think the National League Central could be a pretty good run between the Brewers and the Pirates. I think the Pirates are going to be better than what we've seen over recent years. I think they're going to be a lot better this year. The Dodgers and the Padres are always a good fight. And of course, the Diamondbacks were in the World Series last year. They're all in the same division in the West. But in the American League, the Yankees stand out in the AL East. In the Central, you got a good race between the Guardians and Royals, but everybody else in that division kind of stinks. The AL West, you have the Rangers. They're probably going to run away with it, considering that second place team is the Angels, who, historically speaking, just don't compete throughout the year. Although they do have a brand new manager in Ron Washington. I'd love it if he somehow won the division for them. The A's, and the Mariners, and somehow or another the Astros are at the bottom of the pile there. It is early. But it's a pretty interesting to look around the league right now. But yeah, I mean, one loss to the Mets ain't gonna kill us. Let's just win the division and move on. Matthew says, "Tyler, how great is it to finally see Fried pitch like Fried? Can we stop worrying about him now?" That's kind of what I said earlier. With he looked like himself. And again, I thought he looked more like himself in the latter half of the start he had against the Diamondbacks. I think they ambushed him in that first inning, which you got to be ready for that. I'm not making excuses for him, but he certainly looked to settle down after that and get his game back. And, you got to remember, he's also coming out of, a year where he was injured off and on, and I just think that at this point, now we're at a point where Fried is going to be what we expect out of Max Fried, which at this point, without Strider, we're really going to need. Let's see. Josh Green says, "I trust him as much as anyone, but I'm starting to worry about Ronald. I wonder if his knee discomfort from spring training is still bothering him." I don't think so. I can see where you're at with that, but you're talking about a guy who was 2 for 4 tonight. The other night against the Mets, they hit him, and he stole 2 bases back-to-back. I think he's fine. I don't think that at all. I mean, if you're talking about the lack of home runs, I mean, those will come. Acuna's never struck me as a guy who only hits homers, right? He's very multi-dimensional. And I think at this point, it's too early to worry about Ronald. Because, I mean, it wasn't that long ago. It was only a few years ago where he had, leadoff homers in like 5 games in a row. And would have been 6 without Jose Ureña's interference, but that's neither here nor there. He's a guy who can carry the team, and I think there's a lot of guys on the Braves like that. Matt Olson is one. Riley's one. Ozzy's one. Ozuna, so far this year, has been one. So I think you just have to take what you get when it comes. You also got to think he's probably seeing anybody's best pitches, right? If he's getting on base, which so far, this year he's been pretty good at, and he's already gotten like 5 stolen bases so far. So I don't think the knee's the problem. I think his, I think his approach at the plate might be a little bit different, which may lead to where he is now. But I don't think it's due to knee discomfort. I think it's simply just he hasn't had an opportunity to drive a pitch yet. And once that comes, he'll be moving and grooving. But he's got a 255 average right now, 4 RBIs, 2 doubles. He does have 14 strikeouts, which is not great. That is close for the lead of the team, but Riley's got him beat with 15. So, I mean, it just, it comes with the territory. I was looking for stolen bases. He's got 6 stolen bases. So 6 stolen bases in 12 games, that's a pretty good ratio. I don't think the knee is the issue. I think it's an issue of, like I said, his rhythm at the plate or something related to that. I highly doubt it's due to that. Let's see. Corey Carter says that was 2021 Game 6 Fried. Well, you got to think, guys, with Max Fried – with Max Fried right now, if anybody wants to do good, it's Max Fried. Not just because Spencer Strider's hurt, not just because he's expected to do so, but because he is on a contract year, whether he re-signs with the Braves or not. That is a factor. And if you think it's not, you're crazy, because his pay for the next, for the foreseeable future is going to be determined by this year. Again, whether he's in Atlanta, whether he goes out west, it's going to be determined by that. So I definitely think if anybody's motivated, it's going to be Max Fried. Corey Carter says T-Red is not scared of that 10 p.m. start. Yeah, I debated it, but I decided I didn't have anything else to do, so why not get on tonight? And I enjoy coming on here and talking baseball with you guys. I was tuned into the Braves tonight as well, so why not get on and talk some ball? I really appreciate y'all tuning in. That's the more important part. Who cares if I'm here at 10 p.m.? It matters if you're here at 10 p.m. So thank you for being here, Corey. Thank you for being here, everyone else as well. Remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so that you can stay up to date with everything going on here at On Deck, and of course with your Atlanta Braves. If you're listening to us, thank you for doing that as well. Please do subscribe to the podcast and subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. And remember, guys, if you're watching, we are available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We really would appreciate you guys going to check that out. The links are down below, so make sure to do that. You can also follow me on social media. There's the handle right there at Tyler Redmond TV. That's on Instagram and Twitter. And again, thank you all for tuning in tonight. Really do appreciate it. Gary McCoy, that's a new name. I don't think I've seen you before. Welcome. Says, I think Ronald will be all right. He'll pick up and play like he always plays baseball. I agree with you completely, and I don't think he's played bad. I don't think he's played to the MVP level that we're accustomed to, but that'll come as the season comes. I mean, you're talking about a guy who, we mentioned the knee discomfort. He didn't play a ton in spring training, so I think, he does so much for the offense, even if he goes 0 for 4, that it really pays off because people work around him a lot. And the guys behind him, you got to pitch to somebody. You can't walk everybody. So he really does a lot for the offense, especially when he's on base because of the stolen bases and that kind of thing. He does so much for guys like Ozzy and Riley and Olson and even Ozuna. Like he's the cog in the wheel that keeps it going, right? In a lot of ways. I think he's obviously a huge part of our offense. Let's see. Matthew, Tyler, how is that half of the White Sox wins are against the Braves? How is that even possible for any team? How did we only split against the worst team in baseball? Well, it happens. It's early. I don't think that stat will last, obviously. I think Everybody has good days, right? You ever heard the saying where, my dad uses it a lot. I don't know if I can use it because of its profanity, but the sun shines on the dogs every now and then, right? So you just gotta keep that in mind. Josh Green says, I really don't know what Double A will do if our rotation has another major injury. You can only trade for so much. I agree with you, which is why it was so important that we went and got Chris Sale, because really, I think the Braves will make the postseason. I'm not going to say regardless of anything, but let's say they don't win the division this year because of starting pitching injuries. You heard it. If that happens, and we're all hoping it doesn't, but if that happens and they're a wild card team, you don't need 5 pitchers. Not really. You need really 3 to 4. And the Braves have that. They have Fried. They have Chris Sale, who are your 1 and 2 punch. They have Charlie Morton, and right now they got Ronaldo Lopez. So, and beyond that, they do have options. They have AJ Spinshawver, Bryce Elder. They have plenty to fall back on. It's just not the A team, and you really want the A team. And we were hoping for the A team all year, so time will tell. We don't know, but it's definitely concerning. I don't disagree with you. I think if we get to the trade deadline and the starting rotation is still a big problem, the Braves are going to do something. I would be surprised. And I know a lot of you, when I say that, are going to want to know, well, Tyler, what are they going to do? Who are they going to go get? And guys, it's April 12th, and we're asking who are the Braves going to get at the deadline, right? It's tough to know because teams really have to fall out of contention, right? The only ones out of contention right now, and I'm going to look up the MLB standings again, would be like probably the White Sox. The Marlins are probably already there. They're not out of contention, but they're not a contender, right? It's too early to say someone's out of contention. But when you're 2-12 or 2-11 in the White Sox case, you're pretty much, you know how the year is going to play out, right? Other than that, I mean, you could look at the Rockies. They're 4-10, but they're not going to make the trade right now. The Rockies wouldn't make the trade. The Marlins wouldn't make the trade. You have to let it get to a point where they go, okay, yeah, what will you give me for these guys who I'm not going to have any purpose with using for the rest of the year? So it's going to be tough. Come about July, we'll know who will be trading at the deadline. And we'll of course map that out. We do it every year. We did it last year. But we'll of course talk about who we think it may be. But starting pitching is always at a high premium. That's why Josh said, look, I don't know what Double A is going to do because you can only trade for so much. Starting pitching is at a premium at the deadline always. And it's at a premium really all the time because you can't have a team really without a foundation of starting pitching. And unfortunately, we're seeing cracks in those foundations. I still think this team has plenty to work around. I still think this team is probably going to win the division. I'd be surprised if they didn't. But if they don't win the division, they're going to be in the wild card. I just can't see a world where this offense and what's left of the starting rotation and this bullpen aren't making it to the postseason, especially with the expanded postseason. I would just be thoroughly surprised. And if it doesn't happen, I'm sure I'll be roasted on Phillies Twitter or something. I don't care. I just can't see how that happens at the moment. Philip Nichols says, it's early in the season. We've got pitching depth if needed. Trade deadline could be interesting, but no need to worry for now. And I completely agree with that. Thank you for the super chat. Really do appreciate that. Remember, super chats get your priority. They get your comment read immediately. And, of course, they also support the channel. We're here late at night. We could use the support. So, Philip, I thank you, and I completely agree with you. There's no need to worry now. I came on here in large part due to the fact that I have not been on here since Spencer Strider's start, where we heard that he could be injured, and we went off the air not knowing what the update is. Granted, we still don't officially know what the update is, but as David O'Brien said earlier on his show, you don't hold back good news, right? You do not delay good news. This is not going to be good news out of Spencer Strider. I highly, I for sure think he's out for the season. So that all said, I wanted to come on here and at least talk about that. And I saw, again, a large contingency of people bringing up Trevor Bauer, wanted to speak on that. And, of course, a great Braves win. It all just the stars aligned and we're on late tonight. So, again, Philip, thank you for that. I don't think there's any reason to worry right now. I think this team still has plenty to play for. I still think this team is going to be just fine. And, again, I would be surprised if they weren't the division winners by the end of the year. So thank you for that, and thank you for the super chat. And to anyone else that decides to super chat tonight, thank you in advance. But again, if you would, please do like the video. Please do subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Go ahead and check us out on Apple Podcast, on Spotify. This episode, this stream will be uploaded there either tonight or tomorrow, depending on how late we get off, but you can check us out there. Remember to also check us out on Instagram and Twitter. We really would appreciate the follow. You can see that handle down there below. Links to all this stuff, by the way, are in our description below. So if you need those, they're down there. Thank you again. Mark Narmore says Bauer to Atlanta. I saw, who was it? I saw somebody else said they wanted Bauer. Let's see. Oh, Tyler O'Neill. Thank you, Shan. Look at you. I appreciate that. Let's see. Jeffrey Humphrey says, hopefully Ronald gets it going this weekend. He always, Chipper always seemed to do well against the Mets. Ronald always seems to do well against the Marlins. So that's kind of what I expect this weekend. Miguel Freaka, why are people saying that we don't need Bauer? Braves pitchers are the worst in MLB. I would have to fundamentally disagree with that. I don't think that at all, especially when you look at our starting rotation right now, who you have Max Fried, who, yes, so far he hasn't been great, but look at the back of his baseball card. That's what you're going to get by season's end. Charlie Morton's looked really good. Chris Sale has been as advertised. Of course, he is injury prone, so there is that concern, but he seems to be all right so far this year. Ronaldo Lopez has been a nice surprise. And beyond that, I really think you have a lot of depth, specifically with A.J. Smith-Shawver. I believe in him through and through. I think he's going to be a Brave for a long time, especially when you consider the fact that Max Fried is a free agent and someone is going to have to take that spot. I think it'll be him. I think that's where we're headed. And a lot of people are going to look at me and say, well, why not Bryce Elder? I just have a lot of faith in A.J. Smith-Shawver's stuff. I think he's, a much better game manager. That said, Bryce Elder, for the first half of the year last year was lights out. So I think the Braves are in a good spot. I think whoever gets the opportunity, eventually whoever wins this competition, because make no mistake, it's a competition right now. Darius Vines is not set in stone, right? Neither was Alan Winans. If Winans had a good start, he might have been kept up. But after that, they had to sit him down. Darius Vines is going to get a shot. I hope he goes 6 scoreless. And he's back next week. But, till we see the results, it's going to be tough to say. But to say that the Braves pitching staff is the worst in baseball, I think is a huge overstatement. I fundamentally disagree with it. And in terms of needing Bauer, I don't think the Braves need Bauer. I think they could get him to solve a problem for very low money. And that's really what I want to make a point to say is it's not so much that the Braves are in such a desperate place where they need something. It's we're in a bit of a bind, and Trevor Bauer would be a fix to a lot of our problems, but he could also bring in more problems that we may not want to deal with, right? So it's tough to say. It's a very controversial issue. It's one that I almost didn't talk on tonight, but I wanted to because I knew there was a large contingency of fans who want Bauer, and I do think it's a topic that should be discussed. But I don't think the Braves pitching staff is the worst in Major League Baseball. I would lean more towards either the Miami Marlins or either the Chicago White Sox. That's where I would go to. Let's see. Corey Carter says we don't need Bauer. See, I mean it's hot and cold. What are you gonna do? Let's see. A lot of you guys commenting tonight really do appreciate it. Corey Carter says, I'm hoping that as the year goes on, people will stop comparing this team to last year's idolized version. The chances are better than good that we don't set records like we did last year. I completely agree with you. This season, you cannot compare to last year or expect the same as last year. I said it in the offseason, a few weeks ago. I was like, you can't compare this team to last year because it's not, number one, it's not the same team. right? You have a lot of the same pieces, but it's not the same team. It's a different year. And, I mean, you're talking about repeating stuff that has never happened before. You know, I mean, Ronald Acuna, you expect 40, 70, but, you know, at the pace we're at right now, who knows? Matt Olson, 55, 56 homers last year. You know, 30 is pretty good too. I'm not saying that's where it's going to be, but I'll take 30 or 40 too, with 56 doubles or whatever. Austin Riley had a great year last year. You can't guarantee that this is all going to happen. Who would have thought Sean Murphy would be hurt this early in the season, right? So it's tough to compare it. It's tough to compare it. Corey Carter says it perfectly. I would take an 80 to 82 season if we win the World Series. Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree. Let's see. Corey Carter. Man, Corey, you're blowing me up, man. Let me see. Philip Nichols is just getting in. Well, we already read your super chat, so I hope this isn't the same question. But Bauer's issue isn't just the off-field stuff. He's a cancer in the clubhouse, according to former teammates. Absolute weirdo. And that's, you know, kind of the thing that's more along the lines of what I don't think the Braves want to get into, right? Because you hear from Double A, you hear from Snicker, you hear from the players how good the energy in the clubhouse is, right? And I don't think Bauer fits that mold. Now, he wouldn't be the first that the Braves have done that with, historically speaking. You could argue Josh Donaldson, you know, was a bit of an issue based on recent developments. You could argue John Rocker. You could argue, granted, he was a homegrown guy. You could argue Gary Sheffield had issues, supposedly. But the Braves brought him in, and J.D. Drew is one. The Braves brought all those guys in, and they were all fairly successful in Atlanta. So I don't know what's going to happen. I just don't see the Braves being the team to step over that line and bring in Bauer. I would be surprised. Again, I wouldn't be thoroughly against it, but I would be surprised. Let's see. Yeah. I see you, DJ, paying $90 a month for Fubo just to watch the Braves. That's my point. It just needs to be better. Scooter Puff says Ronald has started swiping bases at an alarming rate at least. The power stroke hasn't been there yet, but he'll get that figured out. I agree. And look, if he gets 100 stolen bases, when's the last time that happened? Right? Billy Hamilton, maybe? Let's see. Corey Carter says, I still say Andrew is the greatest defensive player regardless of position. All of those dives and wall collisions caused him to fall off quickly offensively at the end. I don't disagree with you at all. Andrew, by every metric, is in the top 5 defensively for at least center fielders. I would argue the greatest center fielder of all time. And if you don't believe me, you can believe Willie Mays because he said it. And the fact that he's not in the Hall of Fame yet, it's a joke. I could go on a rant really about the Hall of Fame. I did the other night, so I'm going to try not to. I did the other night on the way to Augusta, of all things. You know what? I'll tell you the story. Why not? We were on the way to Augusta, me and my boss, Jack Patterson, who a lot of you guys may know. He actually went viral a few years ago. He actually asked Tiger Woods a question that went viral the other day. He has a knack for that. But he actually went viral with Marty Smith. He was the reporter who messed up, and Marty Smith came behind him and gave him a pep talk. They're good friends now. And anyway, Jack, he's in the car with me, and somehow or another Pete Rose gets brought up. I don't know how. And I just went full-fledged on a rant for no apparent reason. This is delirious me at, 10 o'clock at night riding to Augusta or whatever it was, the night before we went to the first practice round. And I just start going, right? And after I get done, he goes, You done? Like that. And I go, yeah, I guess I'm done. Thank you for listening. But I felt like I was here ranting to you guys about the Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame has so many problems that I don't think it'll ever be solved. It's going to be a continuous evolution of why we put in certain guys and why we don't put in other guys. And ultimately, I think it's, it's unfortunate because, you know what? Why not? O.J. Simpson is still in the NFL Hall of Fame. I'm just saying, it's such a weird difference, right? Everybody makes the Football Hall of Fame. Most everybody makes the Basketball Hall of Fame. You have to be the elite of the elite of the elite to make it into the Baseball Hall of Fame. But even if you are the elite of the elite of the elite, if you did this or you did that, you're not in the Hall of Fame. It is what it is. I'm just going to say this. Shoeless Joe Jackson's stuff is in the Hall of Fame Museum. Pete Rose's stuff is in the Hall of Fame Museum. Shohei Ohtani's stuff will probably be in the Hall of Fame Museum. But, you know, I don't even want to lump Shohei into that conversation at the moment. There's a lot we don't know. And it looks like he's innocent of everything so far in the investigation. But the Hall of Fame is just, it needs so much work. I mean, the fact that the guy who has the most MVPs, the guy who has the most Cy Youngs, the guy, I mean, you know, it's just, it's something. I know steroids are an issue. I don't necessarily agree with it either, but I don't think the Hall of Fame has handled it correctly, especially when guys, I'm not going to name any names, y'all know who they are, especially when guys who are supposedly guilty of using steroids have made it in. It just, I don't think it's a perfect system. I don't think the voters are a perfect system, if I'm honest. I mean, there was a few years ago where nobody got voted in, and you had people submitting ballots with no votes, which I thought was an absolute disgrace to what the Hall of Fame is. I just, you know, I think the Hall of Fame could be a lot better, and I think it needs to represent the entirety of the sport's history. And the fact that you're missing just about the entirety of the steroid era, the fact that you're missing, again, the guy who has the most MVPs, the guy who has the most Cy Youngs, the guy who has the most hits, the most at-bats in baseball. At some point, it's... I now think it is. So that, to wrap all that back, the fact that you have a guy like Andrew Jones, who is by far the best defensive center fielder of his generation, plus 400 homers, how is he not in the Hall of Fame? I felt the same way about Fred McGriff. Why did it take the Veterans Committee to get Fred McGriff in the Hall of Fame? The voters need a criteria that is more descriptive, right? If the clause is that your character is up for question, okay, but you also have to list out 400 homers. I want stats that they got to hit. Jeff Kent should be in the Hall of Fame, right? I mean, I could name a bunch of them. I mean, it should be in the Hall of Fame. The most outrageous is Pete Rose. At this point, the man's 80-something years old. Give him his day. That's my take. Put Andrew in the Hall of Fame, too. Y'all had enough of that yet? Thank you for getting me on a rant there, Corey. I appreciate it. Rivers T says, Bauer is the wrong kind of messed up. Ozuna is the right kind of messed up. This is... actually seem to like him. You know, here's the thing, right? It's a tough situation. You never want to bring in someone who could damage a clubhouse, right? Marcel was already with Atlanta. I'm not saying that makes it right. I'm not saying it makes it wrong. But by all accounts, he is a good teammate. I've been around him. He is a good teammate, you know? I mean, I've been around him in the locker room and in the clubhouse, and he is a good teammate. They do get along. They do. I can't speak for Trevor Bauer. We've heard from Dodger folks that don't like him. We all know Garrett Cole hates his guts. I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is. I'm not even saying that it should matter, because to me, if you're paid money to play baseball, you're paid money to play baseball. Yeah, the clubhouse cancer is a real thing, but you also can't let it be. So, I think there is a situation for Bauer, whether it's with the Braves, whether it's with the Oakland A's at this point. There is a situation where a team goes, look, we're going to bring you in, league minimum, 1 year, and if we have any problem, you're done, right? You could have that. You could have, if there's any problem, you're going down to the minors, and you're going to stay there. I mean, you could have that. You could have a number of incentives on the contract, but someone should give him a chance. Whether it's a contender or not, someone should give him a chance. I don't think it'll be the Braves. I just don't. I think Snit spoke for that. I don't see them backing away from that easy. But we'll see. Jonathan Yang says, I think Acuna is going to hit his first homer tomorrow afternoon's game. Okay, well, you heard the call, everybody. If it happens, give credit to Jonathan. Let's see. Matthew, you're having a whole conversation. Corey says, are we a podcast now? We are a podcast now. I guess what I've been doing over the last few years is technically a podcast. It's just also on video, which I guess a lot of podcasts. Yeah, we're a podcast, I guess. I don't know. I've just always considered this to just be on deck. I don't know that I've ever given it a technical name. Some people refer to it as a podcast. Some people refer to it as a YouTube channel. It's kind of all encompassing. I guess it's a podcast. But it's I think we're unique in that sense. I'm probably behind the curve on making this a podcast. I was talking a while back. This is a year ago, probably. I was talking to my buddy Josh Pate, which a lot of you guys probably follow him. He's a big college football analyst now, but to me, he's just Josh. I called him. I was like, do you think it's worth me making this a podcast? Like, some people are asking me, goes, Tyler, you're doing all the work anyway. You might as well make it a podcast. So all I really do is take the audio from this and put it up there, and it's there for you. So it's not really hard, but I want to give you guys as much access to this as I can, so it is available to you for sure. So yes, we are technically a podcast. Let's see. Matthew says, Tyler, am I the only one as to why the Braves... Okay, let me repeat that. Matthew says, Tyler, am I the only one confused as to why the Braves called up Vines over Elder? At first, I thought it was pitching rotation turns, but the AAA rotation actually made more sense to call up Elder. Have the Braves lost faith in Elder? I don't think they've lost faith in Elder at all. I think they're probably trying to see what everybody else has got because they know what they have in Elder. But it is a little baffling. I'm not going to lie to you. It's a good question. I would be curious to know what that answer is. I don't think we'll know what that answer is. It may be, and I haven't even looked at the stats in the minors right now. It may be that Bryce Elder hasn't pitched, to the expectation of what the Braves want. Maybe his stuff isn't moving right. Maybe, let's see. Let's see if I can find MILB. Here we go. All right. Bryce Elder stats so far. 2024. Well, I don't know. He's got a 2.61 ERA, which isn't good, or which is good. Yeah, you can't be mad at that. It is only through. It looks like it's only through 2 games. So 261 through 2 games. I don't know what the answer is, but again, a lot of times they have a better idea of what they're looking at because they have eyes on them all the time, and they have eyes on everybody all the time, which I unfortunately don't have that. But I can't speak. I can't speak as to why that is. I really don't know why they didn't bring up Elder. If Darius Vines goes scoreless through 6 tomorrow, whenever he pitches, you have your answer, right? That's really all we can go off. Certainly wasn't Winans, right? It certainly wasn't the fact that Winans was ready to go. I don't think that at all. I think it was a matter of rotation turns. At this point, I would have expected Elder, but now it may just be that it may just be that he had such a great first half last year that they're trying to kind of keep him paced out because the second half was so not where it needed to be. We'll see. I don't think they've lost faith. I think they're handling him pretty carefully. At least that's my hope. But I would be curious as to why he wasn't brought up too. So it's a good question. I wish I had the answer for you, but I definitely agree with you. Let's see. Hato Mato, you and I pulled for Ozuna. I felt bad when they booed him. Glad he is proving his worth. Guys, I'm going to be honest with you. I have a friend who, for some reason, has it out for Marcell Ozuna, right? I'm not going to name his name, but he has it out for Marcell Ozuna. He does not like Marcell Ozuna. And I've tried to convince him. I've tried to, look, the guy was down on his luck. When he's World Series MVP, you're going to wish you rooted for him, right? So there's this fan base that just doesn't like him. And probably similar to Trevor Bauer in that sense, that just they'll never like him because he did what he did, and, it is what it is. I don't hold it against him at this point. At one point, it became, okay, well, if he's not going to put up results, maybe it is time that we walk away from this. But then he put up results, and they never lost faith in him. And I guarantee you, he never stopped being a good teammate. That's the stuff we didn't see for a long time. Probably because they kept him out of the public eye in a lot of ways. I told you the other day, I wish he would bring back the selfie stuff. I thought that was great. There was a promotional thing where they were going to give away, the green sleeve he wears. I think they should do that. I think they should, get him a bobblehead. The dude probably should have won the Silver Slugger last year. And I'll debate that till the end of time. I don't know why they gave it to Harper. Well, I do know why they gave it to Harper, but I still think he should have won it. The stats are just, and, it's not even close. That all said, I think ultimately you're never going to have 100% on Ozuna. You just aren't. My buddy cannot be convinced for whatever reason. He just cannot be. But, look, so far this year, Ozuna's got me bought in. So we'll see how it goes. That all said, guys, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you, Corey, for following the podcast. Go check out Apple and Spotify. If you search, you can find it, but the easiest way to do it is just clicking the link below. We are there wherever you find your podcast. And, of course, please do go follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We would really appreciate it. The handle is right here at Tyler Edmond TV. Again, that is Twitter and Instagram. You can message me there. You can tweet me there. I'll try my best to respond as much as I can. And I don't get to all of them, but I do try. But you can see all my tweets. You can see all my baseball thoughts. I really try to post. I've been posting a lot more there lately, so I try to be active there. Instagram, you can just follow what I'm up to, but Twitter's the where to go. That all said, again, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you're listening on Apple Music or Spotify, please do subscribe. We are brand new on podcast, so if we look like we're new, we are. We are brand new to figuring all this out. We would love your support. That all said, guys, thank you for listening. Really do appreciate it. Late night podcast, late night broadcast, whatever you want to call it. We do appreciate it. We appreciate you as always. So again, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you later right here at On Deck.
Baseball fans, make sure you like and share this video and subscribe to this channel. As always, thank you for your support.